Okay, it is working. I couldn't see because of my nightgown being on the counter there. Yeah, Mrs. Chester here. I have watched both Suspiria films. I did originally watch the 1977 version a while ago, but I was given a copy of the remake, which is not a remake at all, and I really found it irritating as all hell and far inferior to the original, which is why I'm calling this Suspiria Redon'T. I went to Wikipedia just to recap things because I do forget names of actors. Okay, so the first one was 1977 with Jessica Harper in the lead as Susie, by the master of Giallo, Dario Argento. And I really enjoyed that, although the plot was not very large, it was pretty straightforward. Beautiful settings, Art Nouveau building, lovely crashing initial murder of Patricia, and at the end, the witches all perished in flames, which is what they should have done. Now, let me briefly give you the outline. In both of the films, an American student named Susie goes overseas to a dance academy where she finds a coven of witches and people are killed. So the first Suspiria was beautiful, saturated reds and blacks and wood and like I said, the initial murder. What happens in both is a girl student named Patricia finds something out and she disappears. Now, in the first movie, she's killed outright in this wonderfully flamboyant manner. And then the rest of the movie is just kind of creepy, spooky. The means by which Susie finds the witch's coven is by listening and counting the steps that the dance teachers take when they leave the building each night, supposedly. Which is used in both films. It makes no sense in the second film because while the first building, you could hear the echoing, the second building takes place in this big stone Berlin type building, and that's another thing with this movies that the first movie is so much more delicately made. The second one, the remake from 1977, takes place in Berlin during what they call the Berlin Autumn, and they pointlessly, as a conceit, throw in the Lufthansa hijacking, which keeps interfering with the plot and only gives us an idea of how nice the old radios were. It adds absolutely nothing and just intrudes. And also, in the second film, the witches seem to get away with their bloodbath. So that adds to the bleakness. A couple of small things which added horror in the initial one were, the meat chopping cleaverage of the women who work there in the kitchen, and some maggots larvae dropping from the ceiling, which really was unexplained, which was dead creepy. Now, the second movie, oh, how I disliked it. It's like they took the first movie, put it in a box that was too big for it, and stuffed Excelsior and newspaper on it. There was no reason for all this. First of all, we've got Tilda Swinton here. She plays Madame Blanc, She plays Madame Blanc, who is one of the witches in both the movies. And she also has this second role, totally unnecessary, as an 80-something-year-old psychotherapist. So I'm going to refer to her as Dr. Tilda and Ms. Blanc in this. Because the doctor's name is Klemperer. I keep thinking, Werner Klemperer from Hogan's Heroes. So somebody didn't do this right. And Dr. Tilda's makeup is absolutely fantastic, I must say. She's got the liver spots. Later on, we even see she has genitals. Perfect makeup. And she does a credible job of moving as an older man. But every time she opens her mouth, you can hear it's a woman's voice. So it just spoils it. I wish they had somehow digitally altered it or done something, but it just spoiled the illusion. Anyway, so in both these movies, a girl named Patricia initially finds what's going wrong. Now, Patricia in Suspiria Redo goes to Dr. Klemperer and has these journals that outlines the trilogy, Mother Suspiria, Mother Respiratoria, Mother Gymnasium, which are the three witches, makes up the initial trilogy of the Dario Argento movies. Okay, so Patricia goes to the doctor, goes back to the academy. No, she disappears. Then she disappears, sorry. And then when Susie, the American girl, comes in, now Susie, for, as my mother would say, some unknown reason, has to have a mother who's actually like super good. But in this version, Susie embraces the darkness. So her mother is like this Mennonite out in some farm in Ohio, dying in a plain people bed. And Susie has been sneaking off to see Ms. Blanc, that is to say Tilda as the dancer, whenever they've appeared in New York. She has like always been drawn to this woman. So she goes to an audition at the academy with no experience and no references. And as she's dancing, Olga, the woman who was yelling at her, like, you know what happened to Patricia? Patricia was not a terrorist. She wasn't making bombs. You're all witches. She was going to leave, and then she somehow got drawn back into this other room full of mirrors. And while Susie's doing her, violent dancing thing, Olga is like getting torn apart. This is totally unnecessary. She's turning into a lump of twisted gristle. This is just pure horror for the sake of meat. No reason this had to be done. So we're watching Susie dancing, we're watching Olga getting torn up. And then afterwards the witches come in and they take meat hooks and they stick these into Olga like she's a side of beef and they drag her off. This does not make for suspense. I'm watching the movie like this, because like, oh God, now what's going on? What are they doing to her? Oh, I hear some more gristle turning. Oh, she's becoming a pretzel. Okay, so like I said, her real mom is good, but this Susie in the remake is not anti-witch. In the first movie, Susie finds the witch's coven by counting the steps, going downstairs. There is no doctor. It's pointless. And she eventually turns around so the place blows up as if on fire. But the end of the second Suspiria movie is this Red Fest. And I call it Red Fest because I've never seen such bloody overkill in my effing life. It's starting to look like a psychedelic 1960s movie. What happens is that I have notes here. Oh yeah, and they take Dr. Tilda and Sarah. Sarah is Susie's friend. And they take Dr. Tilda and Sarah and put them for some reason in a tea room, just so I think we can see that the prosthetics are so good that Dr. Tilda can eat a piece of strudel. There's no reason for this. There's no reason for it at all. So then he goes to the dance recital. Dr. Tilda, goes to the dance recital there, and Sarah discovers Patricia's not quite dead, Olga's not quite dead, and she falls through the floor and breaks her fucking leg, but she still comes up and does the dance recital, and then she kind of falls apart. And then the bloody climax where I keep looking at my notes because I forget that Dr. Tilda is drawn back to the dance academy by an image, an apparition, a shapeshifter of his dead wife, Anka, who disappeared sometime during the war. Oh, and there's also a little subplot that has no point at all, except to show us some new German detectives, where Dr. Tilda goes to the police and the detectives come in. This is farther back in the film. And Sarah and Susie are in the office at night looking to see if she can find Patricia's address, because Sarah really wants to know what happened to Patricia. And Susie opens the second door, and she sees the detectives half naked and being tortured and toyed with by the witches, who evidently have them in some kind of trance. And she just kind of closes the door and goes, yeah, whatever. So that's when we really know that Susie's into it. So anyway, the spirit of his wife leads him to the dance academy, and he's brought inside, stripped, so we can see that these prosthetics are just fantastic, and he really does look like an old naked guy. So he's lying there naked on this like slab, and the building is in this cavernous, impossible space that could not exist. I think even if you hollowed out Notre Dame, it wouldn't have fit under this little dance academy. And there's blood everywhere, and there's the Madame, what's her name? Madame Marcos, because in both of these series, there's Madame Blanc and Madame Marcos. Madame Blanc is the Tilda Swinton figure, and I think she's played by, forgot her name, someone else. And Marcos is the older figure who is supposed to be dead but is yet living. So Madame Marcos is sitting there looking like a greasy off-white Jabba the Hutt with like extra hands sticking on her, and like she's just a nauseating creature. And for some reason she has dark glasses. Okay, thank you. So she's sitting there, and then this other black demon comes up. No explanation as to who that is with like these. Oh, and we saw these black demon hand claws a second time, because remember I told you one time that Susie was dancing and dancing and dancing and Olga was getting all ripped up. Well, there was a second scene where Susie is like arguing with Madame Blanc about jumping, and she's dancing on this dance floor, and we see this like black hand claw. I'm like, who's the black hand claw? Well, black hand claw shows up at the end here in this bloodfest, and then we have this dark demon, and we have a male singer. This whole thing is full of women, and it's also vaguely anti-male, because the reason that they take Dr. Tilda down to the pit is that supposedly he didn't look for his wife hard enough. So, anyway, so their blood is flying, and the girls who aren't dead, Patricia, who's not quite dead, Olga, I'm not quite dead yet, Sarah, who's having her guts ripped out, not quite dead yet. And there's this, lots of naked people doing the dance, and this big guy with like the tremendous mane of hair is going, wah, 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 doing all these chants. I guess they had to have him there, just like, we need a male voice. So that happens, and Sarah accepts that she is going to be, Mother Suspiria, and we see this, gap in her heart and the plumpy. Okay. Oh, and Tilda, as Madame Blanc, gets her head like chopped off, and great sprays everywhere. So after Susie has become Suspiria, she grants death to the three girls, to Patricia, Olga, and Sarah, who, have been sacrificed. Then the next morning, for some unknown reason, they let Dr. Tilda go. They dress him and let him go home. So he's home and sitting in bed, eating some fruit. And I'll more about the fruit in a second. Eating some fruit, and in comes Susie, who is now Mother Suspiria, and she says, I'm sorry you had to go through this. I'm going to let me tell you what really happened to your wife who disappeared. She died in prison X of exposure, but she only thought of you. And I'm going to take all those nasty memories of what happened last night out of you. So, there's a fair amount of laying on of hands of this. So she lays her hand on him, and he goes into this kind of fit, but then he's okay, evidently. Because when Tilda, as Madame Blanc, initially met Susie, before Olga got mutilated, she did a Reiki on her. She was holding her hands and holding her feet, and we saw this energy. The second film, Leak, pointless conceit of having current events in it, way too much guttage. There's no reason to tear people up. A bad ending. Life goes on as usual. I'm very glad I didn't go to see the movie when it first came out. I know people who did. They really didn't tell me how crappy it was. So that's my review. It's a very long review. It's going to take a long time to upload this. I say if you want to go into Suspiria and the whole Argento thing, please Please do the 1977 Jessica Harper version, which is true to the spirit. Also, the second film was an hour too long. It was 2.5 hours. Absolutely unnecessary. That's Mrs. Chester with her 2 cents, or her her Schweideutschmarks on this. Thanks for making my morning. Now I'm going to go have my coffee, and I'll be talking to you. Bye.